Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. John Owen talks about sports and movies. Thank you for checking out today's video. I always appreciate the support. Let's get into it. So, over the course of this holiday break while I was home, I was able to go to the movies a lot, and I saw Wonka, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and Anyone But You. And so today we are going to have a end of year special. 3 reviews, 1 video, lots of content. I'm going to just mash all of these into one video, kind of similar to my Barbenheimer review that I did earlier this summer. I've been make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe so you never miss out on any of the fun. Leave your thoughts on any of these movies if you saw them. If you like this type of video, where it's like multiple reviews smashed in one, something like that, make sure to leave those thoughts down below as well. I'm also going to show a spoiler alert for all 3 of these movies, so if you haven't seen these movies and you still want to watch the video and still want to hear my thoughts, just save this, watch it later after you watch it. Or if you don't care about spoilers, then let's proceed. Okay, first, I'm going to go with Wonka. We've got an incredibly whimsical film. Okay, I I love this movie. I'm not going to lie. I absolutely love this movie. There's so much charm and personality and kind of childlike joy in this film. There's so much color. It's so creative with the candy and kind of the theatrics of the film are through the roof. Like Willie's store is really cute and really well done. Kind of the city that they build and they inhabit is really, definitely some European flair, but very creative. What I think separates this movie from the other Willy Wonka-esque movies is that this is not about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. This is about how Willy becomes Wonka. And so I think it lends itself some credence to separate itself from the other movies, which I think was a really smart move and decision. But man, like the music and just how much colorful and just how unserious this movie is. This movie doesn't take itself too seriously. It doesn't try to be something it's not. It is just this kind of this tornado of just really a lot of fun. I was grinning from ear to ear the whole time. And I thought this movie was just like very carefree is how I would describe this movie. Certainly it's not the most complex plot or story or characters or themes we've ever seen before. Certainly not. Certainly not. This is not some philosophical think piece. Certainly not. But damn it, you're gonna have a great time watching this. Timothée Chalamet gives a really great performance as Wonka. Kind of quirky, kind of kooky, but really kind and a lot of warmth. He portrays a lot of warmth in this version of Wonka as well. And the rest of the cast and the characters are all, very enjoyable. Even the antagonistic ones, like, the innkeepers and Slugworth and the other chocolatiers and chocolate makers. Antagonistic, but not villainous, not bad. Just kind of very comical, very lighthearted still. Um, what kind of really surprised me about this movie is this movie dives into some has some very heavy political subtext, uh, corruption, um, police corruption, corruption of businesses, um, dirty cops, consumerism, businesses watering down their product. Some very deep, heavy themes that you really wouldn't expect this movie. You really don't think about it, too hard. You're like, oh, whatever, it's just being silly. But I mean, they call the 3 main chocolate matters a cartel. Like that's pretty pointed. Um, so I really just enjoyed this movie so much. Like I really just thought it was really funny. It's really whimsical. There's not really any like groundbreaking in-depth analysis that needs to go on here because the film's not like super complex or anything like that. It's very straightforward. It hits a lot of beats and tropes that you're familiar with. He wants to make the chocolate because I mean he's devoted his whole life to that. Especially with his relationship with his mom and all that. And so, like it's nothing, you haven't seen before from a plot standpoint, but the way in which it's packaged and delivered is just really fun and joyful. You got Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa, which was just great. That song, Oompa Loompa Doopity Doo. Of course, they all have the Oompa Loompa song, but this one was really, really kind of funny and served more of a storytelling purpose as opposed to what I remember the other Oompa Loompa songs playing. So overall, while certainly not the most complex plot or story ever told, Wonka is an incredibly charismatic and whimsical film. It is filled to the brim with personality with incredible charm that keeps you hooked. Timothy Chalamet gives a great performance and submits himself as a star. Timothy Chalamet is, of course, in a lot of great stuff, and this is just adding to kind of his pantheon of movies he's in. I'm going to give it 8 out of 5. I got to knock it a little bit because it's not overly complex, but I had such a great time. I actually saw this movie twice, and I was grinning from ear to ear both times. And so yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 5 or 8.5 out of 10. So now we're gonna move to Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. It was a decent sequel to end the DCEU. So I think that Aquaman did a lot of really. Let me back up a little bit. This movie had a lot of great ideas. It kind of had the type of formula we're looking for here. What we look for in a sequel. You've got an escalation of the threat. Black Manta, who we spent a decent amount of time with. It's got very straightforward, very understandable, very clear motivations. It's got an escalation of power. Okay, perfect. The stakes are raised. There's gonna be a global meltdown if things stop. Okay, perfect. That's good. Good idea. We've got Orm with a potential redemption arc. We've got those elements present. When we think we're going into the film, great. Love redemption arcs. We got this arc of Aquaman having to mend his relationship with Orm / develop it really and learn how to be a better king. So we've got and have this kind of family arc as well. So there's a lot of great elements to this film. And the film explores those, but I felt like the movie was always pulling its punches a little bit. Manta wasn't as formidable as he should have been. And I'll elaborate on this. Orm's redemption arc wasn't as fleshed out as it could have been. Arthur's arc in this movie isn't as fleshed out as it could have been. So while I'm watching this movie, I see the potential. I know where all of this is going. But when you only have a run hour of 2 hours, you are just not going to have this fleshed out as much. It's also wonky because they're trying to phase out Mara. Like Amber Heard has 20 minutes of screen time, but 11 lines. Like that's a lot of really awkward. So there's some really awkward moments with her, and I agree with the idea of phasing her out. I don't disagree with that, but there's a lot of awkward scenes where Mara's actively involved, but not speaking. Where that's such a detachment from how kind of the first movie was. And obviously circumstances have changed drastically since that film due to everything related to Amber Heard, but so it's just kind of clunky. I like I said, all of those ideas, Manta's escalation of power, Orm's redemption, Arthur's arc of learning how to be a better king, how to be a family man, and mending his relationship with Orm, they're all present and they're all explored, but I just felt like they didn't reach as high as they could have. And I think that we spent a lot of time with Black Manta's movie, which I love. I love Black Manta. I love that. Honestly, we spend more time with him. The focus, honestly, screen time wise, is probably on Orm and Manta more than it even is in Aquaman. I think my problem with the two Aquaman movies is that I find Orm and Black Manta infinitely more interesting than Aquaman. But I think the problem with Black Manta is that there's kind of the big boss trope in this film. It's very reminiscent of Black Manta only has the trident because he's releasing the king, the evil king, Nexus or Codex or something, Codex or something like that. I don't remember his name. So like, while Black Manta is cool, and I think Black Manta is well done in this movie because he's got the trident and he's got very straightforward motivations, and I think he's very well written. But I think his impact and threat is always undercut because that there's a bigger fish. That. It's kind of like when you're watching The Last Jedi and Snoke's there. So Kylo doesn't feel maybe as threatening as he could be. Or I guess I would more have that criticism toward The Rise of Skywalker. I have a lot of problems with the movie, but like, when we have Palpatine in the fray, we know Kylo's not the main threat because he's been undercut. So I think Black Manta's threat gets undercut and his presence doesn't hit as hard as it could, because in the back of our minds, we just know that there's always something bigger that's leading up to it. And I don't think that's fair to Black Manta. I don't think if you're going to have him have these big roles, the big role in the first movie, set him up to be the big bad of this movie, that you can just come in and then undercut him. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So, you throw the punch, but you pull it at the last second, Same thing with Arthur's arc. There's this whole plot point where the Council of Atlantis strips his executive power. That's never resolved. That's never fleshed out. I don't know what Arthur learns about being a better king in this movie. He learns nothing about being a better king. Orm tells him you're not as bad at this as you think, but there's no lesson he learns in being a better ruler for Atlantis. Not really. I mean, he goes like public, at the end of the movie. But that's something he already wanted to do. There's no growth there. There's no growth he incurs in that specific area. He just doesn't. He learns no lessons about balancing his life as a father and a family man and the king of Atlantis. So he's got 3 areas of struggle, and only one of them is really developed, and he grows, and that's meaning his relationship with Orn. And so like his arc falls a little flat because he doesn't address 2 out of the 3 big things that's where he needs to grow. Right? And these movies won't have the benefit of having a third because they're not going to make another one of these Aquaman movies in these continuities. This is the last DCU movie. So this Aquaman is just going to have an unfinished arc. Which brings me to Orm, who, just like in the first movie, is easily the most interesting and easily the most compelling character in this film. Just like he was in the first one. Sure, I think Orm might potentially be a slightly poor man's version of Killmonger. Potentially very different. Obviously, they have very different energies. But Orm has a complete arc from these 2 movies. I think, and I still don't think his redemption arc is as fleshed out as it could have been because him and Arthur don't really like. I guess this is maybe just me being very nitpicky, but I wish they would have had like a few more conversations, I guess, than like just spending time with one another, and or more than proves themselves and more than redeems himself. Truly, I wish Orm would have felt some like remorse for that's what I'm looking for. I wish Orm would have showed some remorse. I feel like that would have even pushed his arc further, which I think is good in this movie, and I think it's really well done over the course of these 2 movies. But just like nitpick to push it a little further, if he would have shown some remorse, and some sorry, like, hey, I messed up, that wasn't right, and I think it does like a little bit because he comes to like appreciate a little bit of the surface world more, but like we need just a little more, just a touch more. And I think if Orm would have come in like 10 minutes earlier, had another scene, I think it easily could have been that way. But Orm is by far and away the most compelling character in this movie. by far and away. And I love a redemption arc. And I thought Patrick Wilson killed it again. I think Orm's great. I think Orm is really great. You know, he's got the and where he gets to go and kind of figure things out by himself. But we'll never see the fruition of that. We'll never see the result of kind of that self journey he goes on. And honestly, you know, like that's okay. That's okay. That's not this movie's fault. This was kind of like a thought I had. But Orm, absolutely incredible, so intriguing. Oh, Vocal having an off-screen death, hate that. I hate an off-screen death. I hate it. It's so stupid. And Vocal having one after such the big part he played in the first movie, for him to just die off screen. You know, we could have seen him die from the plague that they talked about, briefly just brushed over. Oh, uh, Arthur's dad's death being completely just like rushed and brushed over. That was so rushed and just did not impact me in any way it should have. I should have been sad, but they did it so quickly and brushed over it so fast that it just happened and we went on. And I'm really glad they didn't kill an infant child on screen. But there, I was like, oh my god, they're gonna do it. They're gonna adapt the storyline where Black Manta kills Arthur's baby. Um, Glad they didn't though. So basically, I just felt like this movie threw a lot of punches without ever fully landing them. Yeah. Overall, Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom has lots of potential to be great, but ultimately falls short. Every idea in the world is there, but every beat falls flat into a middling level. Orm, as with the last movie, steals the show as the most interesting character in the film. Jason Momoa gives a spirited performance as the King of Atlantis, but only a weak-ish story holds the film back, ultimately representing the mid-level quality of the DCEU as a whole. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, and Fishman sinks to mediocrity. All right. Anyone but you were going to switch a movie that I was blown away. When I say it's one of 2023's best, I mean that genuinely. So let's just jump into it. This right here is the quintessential textbook early 2000s rom-com, and I mean that in the best way possible. This right here is what it means to be rom-com. It hits the tropes, but it does them in such a compelling, humorous way that every single beat of this movie worked. Every single beat worked. Everything about this movie was great. Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell have insane chemistry with each other. This trope of like, you know, anyone but you, you know, where they like fake date, you know, all this stuff. I really like that trope. I do. But their chemistry, like when they bicker, when they fight, when they're being more romantic, and then when they're like fully entranced and in love with each other, they pull it all off. They absolutely crush it. I think Glenn Powell does such a good job in this movie at kind of portraying like this like douchebag F boy who is actually very vulnerable and very kind of soft to his core. So I loved Ben. I loved Ben in this movie. And then Sydney Sweeney, you know, does a great job portraying B, who is, you know, kind of she is standoffish, but she's just scared to get hurt, you know, and all this stuff. They just do an absolutely incredible job portraying their characters. Um, every joke in this movie landed for me. I was laughing the whole time. Uh, this movie wears its rated R rating on its sleeve, but it uses that effectively. You know, the F bombs are well timed. All the cursing is well timed. All the other inappropriate jokes are well timed. They're never over the top. But there's a lot of humor in this movie that's not vulgar. There's a lot of very, you know, any age appropriate jokes. So I think this movie does a just is so good. Like I literally walked away. I was like, that's one of the best films I've seen this year, and I meant that. I absolutely 110% mean that. And I think that's all. And I think the main drive of that is that this movie is unapologetically what it is. It is a rom com, and it absolutely attacks that. And with such vigor and with such conviction, it is that, and it's great. And we love it. It's through the roof. It's amazing. The other cast is so good as well. Um, all the other characters play such a great supporting role in trying to get B and Ben together. Um, and I really think this movie is just everything that a rom com should be. So overall, a true rom com in every sense, Anyone But You is a masterpiece of the genre, so endearing in the 2000s. Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney give rockstar performances, and their chemistry is incredible. The rest of the cast and characters contribute to the overall great humor and moments from the film. The relationship between Ben and Bo is so well developed, and the movie's unafraid to be what it is, an all-timer in the rom-com genre. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. I'm going to say this again. Bring back the 90-minute rom-com. Please. For the love of God, we need it. But thank you for watching all of the reviews today. And make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You never miss out on the fun. Check out the link content. Have a great day. Thanks.